Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a face palette declutter. This is long overdue. I think it's been a little over a year since my last face palette declutter. And this time around, I definitely want to minimize my collection. I want to bring my face palettes down to about half of what I have right now. I basically just have one big overflowing drawer of face palettes, and I can't even see all of them, so I don't even get to use the ones that I actually like. I really just use the same face palette every day. I've been using the Smashbox Cali Contour Kit consistently, like for the last 6 months maybe, and I maybe reach for a few blush palettes here and there, but I really don't need all my face palettes. I want to really minimize my collection and focus on the products that I actually see myself using up and like my all-time favorites. So a lot of the palettes that are super old or worn in, I'm gonna end up tossing. The ones that are in better condition, I'm gonna pass along to friends or to donation if they're in really good condition. So this is probably gonna be one of many declutters coming up on my channel. I'm definitely trying to do a lot of declutters in the next month or two to really minimize and focus on my favorites in my collection. But let's get started with some face palettes. If you guys are interested in seeing what my favorites are, which ones I plan on passing along, then just keep on watching. All right, so here is a look into my face palette drawer. I hate how it looks. Basically, I hate how everything is piled on top of each other, and I would like to definitely avoid that, organize it, make it look good. And obviously the way that it is, I'm gonna kind of lose track of like all these palettes underneath here, and some of my favorite palettes are like hidden in the back of this, and then I don't end up using anything that I really like. So it's just like a very obviously unorganized system. So I just want to like really let go of a lot here today. Hopefully I hold myself accountable to that. I know a lot of times in my declutters I end up keeping more than I anticipate, but really I do want to let go of some things right now. So first of all is this Kem contour kit, which looks really gross because I've had it for so many years. This is just dried lash glue that I never cleaned off of it, and I just really need to toss this because I used up my whole favorite part of this palette, the sculpting powder. I probably just want to get like an individual powder in the future, but I am going to toss this. I don't know why I just hung on to this in my collection. I could have just thrown this away. So I'm gonna toss that one. Next up, this is the Physicians Formula Butter Collection with Whaley. This is newer, it came out earlier this year. This is actually gorgeous. I'm definitely gonna hang on to this palette. I always get a lot of comments in my declutters that my palettes are just a complete mess. I want that to change. I'm trying to be a more organized person now. So at the end, I'll go through and clean up all my palettes so that they all look good in my collection, but I'm definitely hanging on to this. This is an awesome face palette, and this is one of the more compact palettes from Physicians Formula, so definitely love this one. I love everything in here as well. And then next up we have the Physicians Formula Exterior Glam palette. So I am gonna hang on to this. This is newer. I love this palette as well. It's a face and eye palette. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get some kind of magnetic palette. I was looking at some on Amazon, and I'm gonna depot this. And I also have some other things from Physicians Formula that come like this that I'm gonna end up depotting as well and move into one palette because this packaging is very bulky and annoying. So I'm hanging on to this, but I'm gonna move it out of this drawer for now, just for the sake of space. And I'm gonna get a new magnetic palette in the next couple days. Next up, this is from Jouer. This is actually one of my favorite palettes as well. This is a blush palette. I actually think that they do not make this palette anymore. I don't know why. It's an awesome palette. Love their blushes so much, so I am gonna hang on to this one for sure. Really awesome formula, lots of awesome shades, and it's not overly large or anything. Like the packaging's very sleek. Next up, this is the ELF Modern Metals face palette. Has eyeshadows, or sorry, has highlighters and blushes, 3 highlighters, 3 blushes. It's a really great palette. I don't need to hang on to it. I have a lot of really great palettes in my collection, so I'm not gonna miss this one. I haven't been reaching for it. This Jouer palette, this is a face and eye palette. This is basically brand new. I did not like the shades in here. I'm not a cool tone person. I'm gonna be passing this along to a friend because this is basically a brand new palette. Like you can see, I just probably used a blush a couple times. It's called the Metamorphosis palette. It's a good quality palette, but it's just not the shades that I like at all, so I'm gonna end up decluttering this one and passing it along. So next up I have a bronzer duo from Jouer. This is in the shade Sunkissed and Sunset. These are gorgeous bronzers. And this is one of those things that gets buried in my drawer, I forget about, and I never really give a fair shot. So I'm gonna put this in a maybe pile for now and see how my declutter goes, and we'll revisit this one at the end because I know that I like this, but I don't know if I've given it enough use to see if I'm gonna use it long term. This is a blush duo from Jouer in Cheeky Summer in the shades Terracotta Sand and Hot Coral. All right, so I think that I'm gonna hang on to this one. I believe I have a couple blush duos like this from Jouer. I'm gonna reach for them all now and compare them and then just pick out one of the blush duos to keep. All right, so I just dug through my drawer and these are the 3 blush duos that I have from Jouer. I'm definitely gonna be decluttering this one. I think like these shades are a little bit darker for me. I can pass this one along. So this is the duo in Cherish Me and Treasure Me. I'm gonna be passing that one along. And then out of both of these, I think I'm gonna hang on to this one. It's a little bit deeper and shimmery. I wear these nude blushes quite a bit, but I also have them in the other Jouer palette. At least I have similar shades, and I think these are a little bit more unique. So I'm gonna pass this one along, as long as I don't break it. This one is in Adore Me and Hold Me. We're gonna get rid of that one. And then the blush duo we're hanging on to is the Cheeky Summer blush duo. So this one is staying, and I'm getting rid of both of these in my collection. I've had them for a while. They're gorgeous blushes, but I really can't use everything that I'm mentioning. All right, next up, I'm gonna hang on to this. This is the Natasha Denona Bloom palette. I believe I got this in an Ipsy Glam Bag Plus a couple months ago, and I actually really like some of these shades. I use everything but this deeper blush. We have a cream blush as well. I love that it has this little divider here so that the cream product stays in good condition and all the powder doesn't get into it. This is gonna be really pretty for summer as well. I've been using this and I really like it. So definitely recommend this Natasha Denona Bloom palette. Next up, this is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Threesome. This is one of those things I didn't even realize I had. I believe I got this as PR a couple months ago, and it's all right, but definitely doesn't speak to me. I'm not gonna miss it. I didn't even remember that I had it in my collection, so I'm gonna pass this along to someone else because it's still in really great condition. Yeah. Not worried about that one, not gonna miss it, and it's in the shade Naked. All right, next up, the Jaclyn Hill Champagne Pop Face Palette. This is one of those things that I don't think I'll ever get rid of because it was such iconic at the time. I wore this on my wedding day. Like I specifically, like every time I pick this up, I just remember putting this on my wedding day. And I did my own makeup on my wedding day too. So it's one of those trinkets that I'm gonna hang on to. I don't necessarily wear it, but it's like just pretty to have, and it's a nice memento. I've mentioned before in previous declutters that I don't have a lot of like mementos from growing up or anything because I've moved around so much and my parents now live in a different country. So these are the kind of things that I like to hang on to. So I'm keeping that mostly as a sentimental thing. Next up, I actually love this, but I don't need it. It's only like a $5 palette. I actually got a lot of use out of it. It's the Wet n Wild Pac-Man blush palette. It's a complete mess because what I would do is just swirl all the blushes together. I got a significant dent in this blush particularly. It takes up quite a bit of room in my collection. I like it a lot, but I like so many other blushes too that I don't need to hang on to this one. All right, next up we have the Cover FX Face Palette. This is the Face Perfector palette in light to medium. I actually really like this palette. I've had it in my favorites before. I really like the contour shade in here, the highlighters. So I'm actually gonna put this in the maybe pile because I specifically like this palette a lot for the contour shade. I'm not gonna miss the rest of it so much. I really do like the highlighters, but I love the contour. So I'm just gonna put this in the maybe pile for now, and we'll see how many palettes I have left towards the end of this video. Kim Naquan, I think this is another one where I used up, I used up the one contour shade I'm not going to use up the rest of the contour shades. They're a little bit too deep for me. I don't like the highlighters too much. I like the blush, but there's a lot of other blushes I like in my collection. This is called the Contour Book, The Art of Sculpting and Defining Volume 3. I'm not going to miss it. I already used up basically my favorite part in this palette, so I'm going to end up getting rid of this one as well. Next up, we have the Hourglass Holiday Palette from like 2016. This is the Lighting Edit Volume 3. I have not touched this palette in 2 years, and I keep trying to tell myself that I'm going to use it. I always feel really bad about decluttering it because it's an $80 palette. I need to declutter this because I'm really, like, if I got it maybe 2017 or 2018 around Christmas time, and I've probably used it 5 times. I'm not going to miss it. The money was spent. It is what it is. I just should have returned it at the time, and I didn't, and it's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna end up decluttering this one and passing this along because I need to stop lying to myself because I just don't like that palette, and I try to force myself to use it because it was expensive. Next up, we have the Film Star Bronze and Glows from Charlotte Tilbury. We have 2 of them. We have the light, this is the deeper one, and we have the light one as well. I'm gonna hang on to the light one because the contour powder is what I like to use the most. The deeper one, I actually really like this as a bronzer, but I don't use it often enough, and I have other bronzers that I love more in my collection. So definitely decluttering this one, hanging on to the light one. Next up, this is the Making Faces Beauty Book from Kevyn Aucoin, Chapter 1. So this came in a big set, and this is the contour portion. I'm gonna hang on to this because it has that sculpting powder that I like, and I think it's gonna be the one thing from Kevyn Aucoin that I hang on to. This is the one that's the most compact and in best condition. Anyways, so we're gonna keep that. We have the Anastasia Contour Kit. I've had this for years, and I still really enjoy it. Yeah, I still reach for this pretty often. Basically, once I run out of the shade Fawn and get a little bit deeper into Pan with some of the other highlighter shades, I'll probably end up decluttering this. Like, these 2 are too like red tone for me. I really like this as a contour shade though. This is the shade Fawn. This is just the original 6 pans that it came with. Yeah, I totally got this like January 2015 and it's still going strong. I'm still gonna hang on to it because it's still good condition for me. All right, so this is a Laura Mercier face palette that came out last year. This is called La Palette Naturelle Face and Cheek Palette. This is obviously in very good condition. I think I got it, I used it a couple of times. I wasn't obsessed with it, and I'm gonna pass this along. I'm not gonna miss this one either. It's a really pretty palette, but I have other really pretty palettes and other palettes that I love more. All right, so this is the Starlight Sparkle Face Palette in Glow from Lancome, and this was part of a holiday kit a couple years back. I'm gonna keep this because this highlighter is so gorgeous, and I don't use it often enough, and I actually love it. Like, I get excited every time I wear it, and this is also a pretty compact palette. It's limited edition. It doesn't exist anymore, but I'm definitely gonna hang on to it, at least for the next couple of months. If I don't reach for it, I'll end up getting rid of it, but I think because it's one of those palettes that was just lost in my drawer, and because this palette was just kind of underneath everything else in my drawer, I didn't give it the full attention it deserves. So I'm hoping that I get more use out of it in the next upcoming month. Otherwise, I'll declutter it as well. Next up, this is the Huda Beauty 3D Highlighter Palette. This has a mix of creams and powder shades. I basically wear everything, or these 2 as highlighters. This is pretty deep for me. I could wear this as an eyeshadow, and then I could wear this as like a blush topper. I'm gonna hang on to this, at least for now. This is another palette that I was really loving when I first got it. And then it just got lost in my collection, so I'm gonna hang on to it because I know that I like it, and it just kind of got lost in my collection, so I didn't use it as much as I wanted to. Next up, this is from Sam Marcel. I got this as PR. This is a highlighter, and this is another palette that looks basically brand new because I used it a couple times. I wasn't obsessed with the formula. I found it a little bit too dry, so I'm gonna end up passing this one along. This is just their luxurious highlighter palette. I'm not gonna miss that in my collection. Next up, this is Natasha Denona Bronze and Glow palette in tan. This one, I don't want to get rid of it because it's Natasha Denona. I will just kind of admit that, and it's less than a year old, and I've gotten some use out of it already. So I like the Bloom palette better. I like the shades in there better. I'm gonna use those blushes more than I am gonna use some of these highlighters in here, but I'm gonna hang on to it just because it's not that old in my collection. And I was using it consistently for a while, so I wanna keep getting use out of it. And it also has cream in it, so I can't necessarily like donate it or anything. And it's pretty used up to pass along. So I'm gonna keep using this, put it in some everyday makeup drawers and get more use out of it and see how I like to use it and like rediscover it in my collection. This is an ELF duo in St. Lucia. I used to be obsessed with this back in the day, like a couple years ago. I'm gonna go ahead and declutter it because I don't think that I've reached for this in over a year. But just know if you guys want really affordable contour, blushes, anything like that, check out these duos from ELF because they're really awesome. I'm just not reaching for that one anymore. The ColourPop Innuendo palette, I'm gonna put this in the maybe pile for now because it does have really great highlighters, but I haven't been reaching for it lately. You can see I've actually used this palette quite a bit, but it's been a little while since I've used it last. So we'll put that in the maybe pile and then assess at the end of the video. Next up, this is from Huda. This is a Mexican makeup brand, and I got this palette in Colombia last year. It's a contour kit. See, now I'm doing that sentimental thing again when I want to keep it because I got it in Colombia. And I don't necessarily need to keep it, but I need to just make myself use this more. I'm gonna hang on to it. Mostly, I'm really just gonna hang on to it because I bought it in Colombia and everything's in Spanish. This is just like a sentimental thing, but I'm actually gonna use it, or at least try to, so that's where I stand with that one. These, okay, Juno & Co. sent over this Cherry Bomb palette. I think I'm gonna pass this one along. Yeah, it still looks super new. Like I was using the contour shade a couple of times, but the rest of the shades weren't necessarily like my favorite. So I'm gonna end up passing this one along. It's still in really great condition. It's a good formula and everything. I just wasn't obsessed with the shades. The Tarte Pro Glow palette, I reviewed this on my channel, I think like in 2016. It is very, very old. I'm gonna end up tossing this palette. It is over 4 years old, and I'm sure the cream in here has like completely hardened and everything. So I got a lot of use out of this palette back in the day. I don't need to hang on to it anymore. I really haven't picked it up in the last year. Next up, we have the Dominique Cosmetic Prism Glow Highlighter palette. This is actually a gorgeous palette, and I forget about it because it was buried under those other palettes. So this is something I still love and recommend. Yeah, definitely recommend this palette. Love it so much, but I just forgot about it in my collection, so I'm excited to bring it back out. And just seeing this again, I'm gonna go ahead and put the ColourPop palette in the declutter pile because I'd rather use this up. It's newer. I like the pigmentation on these shades more than this Innuendo palette. So just so you guys know, this palette is good. I do still recommend it, but in terms of just trying to use up things in my collection, I prefer this one, and I'm gonna definitely use this one up compared to the ColourPop one. And next up, we have just a few more things in here. This is another sentimental thing that I need to keep forever. This doesn't exist anymore. This is the Tarte Rainforest After Dark palette. So I got this back in like 2014. Yeah, I remember getting it in 2014. It was my first face palette. When I got this, I was teaching high school at the time, and I just remember at like 6:45 in the morning, I would like be in the dressing room in my classroom and put this on before teaching. And that's why I keep it. Like every time I open this, it just brings me back to that. So I'm hanging on to this because there's way too many memories attached with this palette. It's just such a throwback, and it's one of those things that it's just like it really just puts me in that, brings me back to those moments. All right, next up, this is a broken highlighter palette from Physicians Formula. I'm gonna go ahead and declutter this. I love the Physician Formula butter highlighters, but I have them in a bunch of other palettes and obviously not broken, so that's why I'm gonna declutter it because it's completely shattered, and I have that same shade otherwise. And then these are your tricky ones. I'm gonna hang on to the Benefit Cheekathon palette. It's another older one in my collection. I got it back in 2016 when it first came out, and I still love all of these shades. Like Benefit Dallas is one of my holy grails. Coralista, like all of these I really, really love. I know I have Hula and Rocket Couture as individuals, but Dallas makes me so happy. So I'm gonna hang on to this one as well. All of them are like really awesome shades. And then this is the Glowgasm Face Palette from Charlotte Tilbury. This is a palette I haven't reached for in quite a while. It came out like last summer and I was using it a lot then. So I want to kind of rediscover it in my collection, put it in some everyday makeup drawers, and see how I end up feeling about it in a couple more months since I kind of forgot about it. So I'm going to hang on to this one as well. So that's everything that was in this drawer. I need to like clean up this drawer since there's a lot of makeup on it and stuff, but I'm gonna go ahead and go through all of these palettes, show you guys what we're keeping, what are maybes, and what we're getting rid of. All right, you guys, so I just organized the palettes with the palettes that I'm keeping over here, the palettes I'm getting rid of over here, and guess what? It's the same amount on both sides. Over here we have 17, over here we have 17, and then we have the 2 that I was debating in the center. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna keep things even, hang on to the Cover FX Face Perfector palette, and we're gonna get rid of the Jouer bronzer duo. I'm gonna be doing like a bronzer blush highlighter declutter probably next after this video. So I still have so many bronzers that I want to use up and go through as well, but that is everything. Oh, I'm so excited that I actually committed to decluttering half. I know that a lot of what I'm getting rid of are things that are super old or like some more affordable palettes that I'm not as committed to compared to like Natasha Denona, Charlotte Tilbury and stuff. But I'm sure you guys probably declutter very similarly, where you want to kind of hang on to those more pricier items and are a little bit more okay parting ways with things that are a little bit more affordable. I did keep some drugstore palettes over here with my Physicians Formulas palettes because those are so good. And these are the ones that I feel good about getting rid of. I actually have a lot of like Jouer and Kim Kwan like higher end palettes in there as well, like my Laura Mercier palette too, but some of those can be passed along to friends and family or donated as well. So I don't feel bad about like letting go of things when someone else can get more use out of them than I did. So here is a closer look at everything that we're hanging on to. Like I said, I'm gonna be putting this into a Z palette. I'm gonna put this in an eyeshadow palette drawer for now actually, because it has mostly eyeshadows, and I'll worry about organizing that a little bit later. But these are all the things we're hanging on to. Awesome palettes and things that I'm looking forward to rediscovering in my collection. And then this is everything that we're getting rid of. Some things I didn't think I would get rid of in this video, like the ColourPop palette, but I'm really not gonna miss it in my collection. And like the Charlotte Tilbury palette, but I'm really not using it, so there's no reason for me to hang on to it just because it's expensive if I really haven't picked it up in a very long time, like the Hourglass palette over there too. So I'm gonna move all of these palettes back into my face palette drawer and show you guys what it looks like now that all these extra palettes aren't in there anymore. All right guys, so here is a look at what this drawer looks like now with half of the palettes gone. Let me know if you have any tips on how to better organize this. Like, it's not a very deep drawer for sure. But I tried to do the best I could where I could still kind of see where everything is. The palettes that are like in the very back are like the ones that I mentioned that are more sentimental. This one and the Tarte one that I'm not really necessarily gonna wear, I just keep to keep. But then everything that I want to just rediscover my collection is like closer to the front, and I can actually pretty much see all of the palettes here. So that's like everything that is now in my collection. It's way more organized. Even though it's still a little bit chaotic, it's definitely way better than before. It makes me a lot happier, and I actually am just looking at makeup that I know that I love and not just stuff that's taking up room in a drawer. So really excited about that. Let me know if you guys have any more tips or questions on any of the palettes that I mentioned today. Like I said, there's a lot of palettes that I did declutter that I do like, but they've just been in my collection for way too long. So let me know if you have any questions or just let me know what your favorite palettes are, your favorite tips for organizing your palettes, especially in Alex drawers. But that's gonna be everything for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this declutter. If you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.